Hello everyone, welcome to AKS IAS main section of free initiative. This is Santosh Koka. Today we will discuss one important question. Before that we will check small information related to new batch that was started on 11th November. TGPSC, APPSC Group 1 and 2 English and Telugu medium new batch started on 11th November. Prelims come mains integrated coaching offline live online classes will be available here, right? So for more information you can call these numbers. So let's check today's main section of free initiative, that is question for 24th November 2024, that is related to subject environment. Discuss the key reasons behind the recent increase in CO2 emissions in India and evaluate the measures needed to align India's economic growth with its climatic goals. Every day we are following our simple and smartest technique, that is 3 steps before writing answer. In first step, question reading, with very important, within 1 minute here we need to focus on identifying question tags and keywords, right? What is the topic here? CO2 emissions increasing, or rise of CO2 emissions in India, right? Very important regarding our environment topic, right? So what are the important question tags here? Discuss is the important one and only one important question tag here. Here we need to focus on providing positives and negatives and also some needed measures, right? So that is the clear-cut definition of question tag discuss, right? So what are the keywords here? Key regions is the first important keyword, right? We need to address this, and also next importantly, evaluate the measures needed to align India's economic growth with its climatic goals. Here in between we need to provide some challenges based on whatever we have, key reasons or some issues, right? So challenges and also measures, right? So if we create simple structure according to the demand of the question, first of all we need to write some key reasons for the rise, right? Rise of CO2 emissions. Next, challenges is the important question keyword, right? Subheading. Next, also finally before conclusion we need to provide some needed measures, right? So very important. So this is the simple structure according to the demand of the question. So next importantly we need to focus on providing brainstorming. In steps 2 we need to focus on recalling important keywords related to the topic, right? So what is the topic here? CO2 emissions related information, whatever we have recent data according to the particular current affairs we need to include, right? So recent CO2 emissions related information we need to add first of all, right? Other than that we need to give some important measures, especially reports, right? Reports are very important here, right? Need to include here and there, right? So especially India's carbon emissions facts also need to include here, right? So some other important information related to other countries especially we need to include here, right? So other than that, especially in the key region section we need to provide some important examples and also facts here, right? So in this particular case we can include some India's intensive energy intensive industries, or we have some important agricultural contributions or some practices especially, right? So other than that, renewable energy also very important here, need to talk about this, right? So other than that we have some socio-economic constraints also regarding challenges part. So other than that we need to include some important missions or initiatives. National solar mission is there, targets, right? So other than that we have promoting particular schemes also, PAT schemes also are there, right? So very important. So other than that we have EV adoption also, green hydrogen mission also is there, green hydrogen mission, that is also very important. Also reports like World Bank we can include here, right? So awareness related we have Swachh Bharat, right? These type of issues especially need to include some policies, initiatives or schemes in the answer, right? So first of all we need to focus on starting let's start our current affairs introduction. Especially in this part, especially we need to focus on according to a global carbon project study, whatever we have, global carbon project study recently released, especially India's carbon dioxide emissions from burning fossil fuels are expected to rise 4%, 4.6% in 2024, right? This is the important highlighted information recently seen in the news, right? So this is highest among major economies especially, right? Other than that, we need to mention some background especially here. So other than that, we can also give some major findings of the report other than whatever India's carbon emissions especially, right? So other countries like China's or European or United Nations differences between India and other countries, right? So here coming to background part, India's CO2 emissions have risen 6% in the past year, reaching a record 2.8 billion according to Global Carbon Project. Also Global Carbon Project 2023 especially here we are talking about, right? So we have some important aims also we can include. Fast aim, what is that? Aim for net zero emissions, right? Net zero emission target by 2070 is there, right? We need to include this particular information, right? So in the body part, we need to follow our structure, simple structure, that is first key reasons. Whatever we have some reasons already mentioned in the question itself, right? So we need to include here. First of all, we have coal dependency. Coal dependency is the major reason for the rising of CO2 emissions in India. Over 55% of India's electricity is coal based only, right? Increased urban power needs have led to a higher coal consumption here. For example, here we can include in 2022, especially coal production rose by almost 30% to meet summer energy demand here, right? So other than that, we have other important thing, that is urbanization. This is also other important key reason for rising of CO2 emissions. Expanding infrastructure and construction activities demanding high energy here, right? For example, here we can talk about cement industry or production here. Cement production grew by almost 10% in 2023, right? So this is the perfect example here, right? Other than that, we have transport sector also. We can talk about transport sector, especially transport sector growth also very important here, need to talk about, right? Increased private vehicle usage and limited public transport contributing to emissions here, right? For example, here transport accounts to 13% of CO2 here emissions in India, right? So other than that, we have India industrial output also other key reason, industrial output. So energy intensive industries like we have steel and also chemical industries also mostly depending on fossil fuels, right? So for example, here we can include the steel industry emitted almost 200 million tons of CO2 in 2022 itself, right? Very important fact. Other than that, we can also include agricultural practices also. Agricultural practices also one important needed or important key reason for rising CO2 emissions in India. Practices like whatever we have, stubble burning and excessive fertilizer use add to our emissions here. For example, here we can talk about agriculture contribution, that is 14% to India's greenhouse gas emissions, right? So these are the key reasons. Next level, we need to focus on providing some challenges here, right? So second part, challenges we need to talk about. So first of all, energy transition barriers are very important. Energy transition barriers, right? We are in the stage of transition, and especially in the sector of energy, right? So renewable energy growth facing issues like high costs or storage limitations. For example, here we can connect our, importantly we can talk about India added only 13 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by in 2022 only, right? So below the 20 gigawatt whatever we have target, right? So almost 7 was the gap here, right? So next important challenge we can talk about dependence on fossil fuels. Most dependence, right? Mostly depending on fossil fuels, that is also very important challenge here, right? Economic activities heavily relying on imported crude oil, almost 85% dependency, right? So this is the most important fact. So next, policy and implementation gaps also very important. Policy and implementation gaps. Implementation gaps are also certain challenges here. Limited enforcement of carbon pricing and green technologies, very important here, right? So next, socio-economic constraints also other important challenge here. Socio-economic constraints, especially here we need to talk about poverty alleviation efforts often conflict with emission control measures here, right? So these are the challenges. So other than that, we need to provide some needed measures in the before conclusion, right? First of all, we can talk about accelerating renewable energy, especially, right? Renewable energy we need to accelerate, right? This is the perfect needed measure. Scale upping our solar or wind or hydropower, right? We have solar and also wind, hydropower. We need to increase this, right? So these projects, especially, for example, we have National Solar Mission targets 280 gigawatt by capacity by almost 2030 here, right? So other than that, we can also talk about promoting energy efficiency. Energy efficiency also very much important here, right? So we need to promote energy efficiency, expanding some schemes like PAT, especially industry for energy PAT scheme. That is also very important for energy optimization, especially. These could reduce our CO2 emissions by almost 40 million tons by 2030, right? So very much important fact, right? So other than that, we can also talk about some investing green technology. Green technology is also very much important keyword here, right? Boosting our EV adoption, electric vehicles adoption, and green hydrogen, especially production, green hydrogen production. For example, here we can add our green hydrogen mission aims for almost 5 million metric tons of production by especially 2030, right? So this is also very much important mission. Next, other than national solar mission, we have green hydrogen mission also, right? So these are the important keywords need to include as a justification part here. Other than that, we can also talk about carbon markets, right? Carbon markets strengthening also need to include. For example, World Bank estimating carbon pricing could cut India's emissions by almost 30% by 2035, right? So here implementing stricter carbon pricing mechanisms need to include here, right? So other than that, public, fifth point, we can talk about raising public awareness. Public awareness is also very much important here, need to include, right? Encouraging energy conservation and waste management is very important. For that, we have already Swachh Bharat, right? Swachh Bharat has improved waste management significantly, right? So we need to follow all these important initiatives, policies, and missions, right? So in the final conclusion, as a futuristic note, through renewable energy, industry modernization, and public participation, especially we are talking about all these information, right? So if we follow above measures, India can achieve its 2070 net zero target, right? Net zero target, and pave the way for a sustainable future. That is very important here, right? Sustainable future. So here we can talk about our SDG goal 13, especially climatic change, especially very important, right? So this is the perfect structure according to the demand of the question. Whatever the keywords and question tags mentioned in the question itself, we are addressing each and every one with including challenges that was missed in the question, right? So next important question, that is day 133 main Shikshna question for 25th November 2024. Discuss the significance of the cultural festivals like Bodoland Mahotsav in preserving and promoting the heritage of marginalized communities in India. How do such initiatives contribute to the cultural integration of diverse groups? That is related to our culture subject, very important. Art and culture relatedly, we can achieve questions can come from this particular section. Mahotsavs are cultural festivals, especially very important for the upcoming examinations, AP Group 1 and UPSC mains, right? So write your answers and upload in the AKS app. Thank you very much. All the very best.